So first of all, I'd like to welcome Vince on stage. And Vince comes all the way from Sydney. Yeah? And so Vince is the Regional VP of Workday's Specialized Solution. And his team is focusing on empowering FP&A as well as procurement teams across the region to build more speed, flexibility, and accuracy into the organizations. So Vince joined Workday back in 2018 through the acquisition of Adaptive Insights, and where he was the managing director of ANZ. So again, he brings along 20 years of technology and enterprise software industry. So where does the 10 years go, the other 10 years? No, okay, just kidding.
Well, actually, in finance, I think that's the common thread for me is my entire tech career, years, right, which is probably 20 plus years now, but has really just been, probably one thing is working with finance, but then two, this is probably more recently, the last 10 to 15 years has really been, bringing new cloud technologies, right? So it's really exciting to continue that on with the Workday journey so far.
Exactly, yeah. So I think, Vince, just to start, as you heard from Maurice earlier on, everything we'll do it fast and better, right? To navigate this ever-changing world. So from a planning perspective, can you just share a little bit of insight as to how we can better do it to navigate this fast-paced environment?
Yeah, no, that's a big question, Lee Thong. But I think and following the custom in the lead up to this, I think it's always great to be in Singapore. For me, that's probably the most exciting piece. That I feel this is the extension of what I can do is bring to you more of that finance, cloud technologies, and now with Workday. But I think, look, you've heard a lot about change, right? So I'm going to try and give you my own link on this, and that is, and I heard this in one of our events a little bit earlier, where what kind of probably stands out for me is that change for you is happening everywhere all at once, right? And in particular, and whether that be changes in your company or changes in your markets, or whether that's competitors within your own business or within your own markets. And then the flip side of that is it's your shareholders and your investors as they're, really putting pressure on you to survive and thrive, right? And really kind of that's what change is, I guess, in from my perspective. And then, the key point in all of that is you as finance, like your ability to facilitate, that change. You have you have a key role to play in your business in terms of how, you drive more of that agility, that being adaptable, being strategic, all these key themes that you've heard. And really, just to stop there and then kind of take us down a little bit of a journey, right? Is the reality is that most organisations, this is a difficult process, right? In terms of really facilitating that faster decision-making process within your business. And, and typically finance is the one that's really, finding that most difficult, right? And at the core of that challenge.
Yeah, so Vince, you have been working with so many of our customers. Tell us more about what are some of the common challenges that they are facing. And perhaps before you start, why don't we just show the poll result earlier on and see if there's any surprises that you're seeing here. 27, what is that?
And how good is this? Now, this is my tester in terms of FP&A alignment, right? But I think if I'll unpack it in two parts. One is actually that first point that you put up in terms of that manual and lots of spreadsheet is the reality of today's, environments for most, for most finance. And then the second part is I'll unpack is really the complex IT environments that you operate in, right? And we touched a little bit of, I think, earlier on that in Maurice's section, is really, if I start with today's reality, right? And you'll laugh in a minute when you see the slide because it's so relevant to what you're telling us here, is that I see that there's just a lot of multiples, right? There's multiple people, there's multiple systems, there's multiple processes across multiple departments that are running their own planning processes that, meaning that you're duplicating your data, right? Like you're entering your information multiple times, whether that be customer records, supplier records, employee records, creating this disconnected, data silos across your business that you as finance are manually, consolidating with spreadsheets, right?
Absolutely.
And I guess you're probably asking me, well, what's wrong with that? So consider this. So how many times have you watched your team spend hours pulling together your spreadsheets, only to try and reconcile the data, right? And it doesn't true up, and then you're spending more time going to fix the breaks and links and formulas, and then someone goes, hey, I actually need to see the data behind that. And then you're stuck with your spreadsheet and you're spending days, right? But that's not to mention the errors that error rates and unproductive time that spreadsheets bring you as well. But then the other part as well, Lee Thong, maybe if you just go to the next slide, just to articulate this a little bit more, is the disconnected nature of the solutions that you tend to then go and find, right? Is that you'll then go and HR, as an example, will go and invest in workforce planning on its own, right? Or operations will go and invest in perhaps in demand forecasting on its own. Now, that creates this very disconnected planning process across your business because you as finance are not aware of it, right? And you fundamentally have this very disconnected planning process across the organisation that results in incomplete data, inconsistency in your planning assumptions, lack of collaboration across the departments. But fundamentally, why is that all a problem? Well, it's the missed opportunity to act on that analysis, right? You have disparity in your ability to analyse that data.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think in my past, when I have got 200 legal entities, almost 100 countries, my team is dealing with thousands and thousands of spreadsheets. I have got the new budget 1 version to new budget 8 or 9 version. So I saw earlier on, version control is another one.
I'll give you two data points on that, and I promise I'll start unpacking the IT side. So a 90-year plan, that's probably the most extreme that I've come across. So 90-year plan, and I've hit 100 and exactly, and it's finance, a financial services company that deals in trees. I'll leave that with you to figure out. And then the other part of that is 140-something odd versions of a budget is probably the extreme of the spreadsheet problem. But anyway, don't let me hold you up on that. But moving on and unpacking the second part of this is the complex IT environments that you operate in, right? And really that's the challenge of integrating and managing the magnitude of modelling tools and spreadsheets that you're dealing with. That's one thing, right? But it's more, what I want you to think about here is managing the security and user access rights across all that data, and it's important data because it's the data that's driving where you're going in your organisation, but it's also the security policies, right? It's all the other security related requirements. And then the last piece on that, Lee Thong, is think about the computing capacity, right, and the storage. Every time you need to analyse information, you need more data, right? So we heard, that's quite a key point for most CFOs, but every time you need data, you need more storage, and storage means more IT investment, right? And that not only in terms of dollars, but in terms of the change impact, where you've got to go through a very long process of waiting for IT to make a change, to add a column or to add a row, only to find out 2 weeks later, or maybe longer, that you need to make another change, and you've got to go through that whole process again before you've made any progress in terms of your analysis. So I think I've done a good job in really just bringing this down into. I need to pick us up now.
So thanks, Vince. And I think if some of you are feeling like my budget process is really there's a lot of room for improvement, it's super manual. Maybe we should listen to one of our customers before they implemented Adaptive and see whether there's some commonality there. Okay, I shall show you this. St. Vincent de Paul Society is from Australia. So let's listen to what they have to say.
My name is Jean-Baptiste Naudet, and I'm the CFO for St. Vincent de Paul, New South Wales. It's a $200 million business. There's about 1,200 staff, 3,500 members, and then 11,000 volunteers working throughout the different shops and services. We have a homelessness and housing division. We also have a health division. We have clinic, and then we've got disability as well. When I joined at Vinis, we did not have any reporting or planning systems. We had over 1,200 cost centers and Excel. So you can imagine when you try to do budgets, there's 1,200 tabs in an Excel or different Excel spreadsheets. And then you send them out to people and then you collect what they've done, all these tables, all these spreadsheets, etc., to try and come back to a consolidated number. So there was no feedback mechanism. The preparation to even get to numbers in front of the business just took way too long. We're all here to do good for people, but we've got to do it in an efficient way. So one of the first things I did is to put an adaptive on Workday and to be able to bring visibility and understanding of the financial situation to the business. So that was one of the reasons why we chose Workday. The budget process is shorter now, so the time that the business spends looking at budget is also reduced, which means they have more time to work on helping the people in need. Putting a new business intelligence tool is not easy, and often the change management can be very hard, but honestly, it was a breeze. And the feedback from the leadership team was, oh my God, this budgeting process is so transparent, it's robust. I can see how we're looking now for the whole directorate. Everybody spoke about how it made the process better and more enjoyable. For me, the biggest advantage, just being able to look at the information in a meaningful way, understand it better, and then be able to adjust it based on what the actuals were, what they think is going to happen in the future. That's for me the strength, and that's where the good feedback was, that we understand our numbers more now, so we can make better decisions. We've got a great tool, we can do a lot more. For example, more analysis of forecasting of fundraising, or more analysis of retail or other things. I'm sure the business intelligence capabilities are going to increase over time, so we'll look forward to these improvements so then we can bring that value to the business.
So Vince, you have shared the challenges that CFOs are facing, and we have now seen how a live customer, what they were facing before, how they are benefiting now with a new solution like Adaptive. Can you share with us what does good look like? So for someone who is looking for a solution, what are some of the key criteria that they should have a tick box there?
Yeah, no, it's great. Listen, in fact, I was just talking to JP last week. He's only using 30% of the application, so it's interesting that it's already delivered such value. But as you're thinking now, kind of triple clicking into your planning application, there's probably 5 key areas, right? And at the top of that list is really that ease of use, which means, it's a solution that allows you as the user to analyze, the way that you want to plan, right? It's respective, and that's putting into context the fact that finance plans in a certain way, but HR plans in a, they worry about skills and people, not so much the dollars, right? They tell you they do, but you know that they don't. So it's really driving that seamless engagement across the departments and across the business without you waiting for insights to come to you, because you've got built-in analytics, meaning that it's done on the platform, no separate applications or data transfers between the systems, and it's coming back to that source of truth that we heard about earlier. All the reporting is from the single source of truth, providing insights in real time, empowering that insights to action, or that faster insights to action. Flexibility, meaning that solution needs to be intuitive, finance owned, and meaning that you can make the changes as they happen, and you don't need to wait for IT or wait for others to make those changes for you. The time to value, which is allowing you heard a little bit of that from JP there, in terms of modelling your business in the way that you want to, right? So that's really increasing your ability to run what-if scenarios, which you all would appreciate this. We saw across our customer base during COVID, that went up 30x. And it's actually stayed at 20x since, right? So highlighting the reality that we're now living in a constantly changing environment. And then the last part is really just that scalability and performance, which is, for me, a solution needs to be elastic, which is when you need insights and you need data, the application is able to scale with you and not you sitting around waiting for someone to switch on more storage for you.
Yeah. So if those were the quality and you were to translate it to, so what does that mean to finance from a solution perspective?
Yeah, so from a solution perspective, and at the heart of this really is Workday Adaptive Planning, right? So it's an enterprise planning solution, meaning that we've designed this with all departments in mind, right? So we've designed it with you as finance in the centre of this. You own the planning process, but we also appreciate the fact that everybody else in the organisation needs to plan. So we facilitate the ability for HR to plan with skills, but the output of that is your personnel file, It reconciles back, feeds into your financial plan and the company plan off the back of that. It delivers you, that flexible, scalable modelling with no limits and real-time data insights. The other part to this as well is that it's designed to empower you as a finance team to not only own the modelling, but also drive that continuous forecasting and that continuous planning. The solution is widely deployed, so 6,000 organisations globally. I need to get this right because I always combine it with my others, but from an APAC perspective, we've got 550 customers, and in Singapore alone, we've got 50 plus customers that are, driving this agile planning process. We've got over 300 plus external systems that we bring data into processing, over 2,000 specific use cases across finance, HR, sales, operations, IT, as you bring that whole planning process together. And as Workday customers, Workday Adaptive Planning has that tight data dimension and user synchronization with Workday HCM or Workday Financials, meaning you have automation. As you're closing off on your decision points within Adaptive Planning, they are automatically driven through workflow. An example of that is, as you're closing out your personnel or your headcount plan in Adaptive, it doesn't need to be manually entered in terms of your recruitment decision. That's facilitated automatically through workflow in core Workday. And that's eliminating lots and lots of manual hours of resource managers, hiring 500 people across the globe.
Yeah. Thanks, Vince. So I think I'm not going to let you go without talking about AI machine learning. And we heard a lot from Tim earlier on. So how is it embedded within Workday Adaptive Planning?
Yeah, and I'm mindful of my time session too, because I'm getting the flasher here, but I'll call this. So if you haven't gone to the Discovery Zone, please go seek out the team, let them take you through, because for me, intelligent planning is probably the biggest differentiator for us, over and above our ability to activate finance and really bring agility to you. And as Tim touched on earlier, is the machine learning is embedded into Workday, right? Meaning Adaptive also benefits from that, meaning that the system has the ability to learn and identify patterns as it receives that data. And that's what we use to drive the prediction, not just the data, right? And in particular, think about that in terms of it's learned how to solve for those things for you from 600 billion transactions now. That's a big data set, right, for a planning application to be part of. So really, from an intelligent planning perspective, what are the three, kind of just unpacking that machine learning a little bit more of how you can gain from this is one is building predictive forecasts, right? So meaning that's using machine learning and your historical statistical models on something like anomaly detection, which is you're entering some numbers, it's giving you a range, and it's calling out to you that this probably needs to be reviewed instead of being saved and being picked up 2-3 weeks later, right, in a board report. It's identifying the drivers, that have the most impact. So that's outlier reporting. That's simply flagging to you in your reports that there are some drivers here that if we go and look at this now, make the changes, it'll have quite a positive impact. And then the last part is empowering all users, right? And that's the predictive forecasting. That's augmenting that decision-making process through augmenting and delivering options for you.
Yeah. So it looks like AI is really a game changer for finance going forward, right? And it's going to be happening very, very fast. So what does all this mean as a benefit to finance? Yeah, in practical terms.
Yeah, I think it's collaboration, right? I believe that finance owns the planning process, right? Everybody else can talk about how they run the company, but you run the company, right? And therefore, your ability to collaborate across all users, right? Whether that's HR, or the other extreme of that is analysts to executives, right? Having them be part of the planning process as well. And then accelerating that planning process and that forecasting through, the real-time insights that we've talked about, driving right, accurate and right decisions that you do in real time as you pivot the business, right? And as you answer that challenge of being able to make decisions fast. And probably the other part to that is really being able to benefit from what we bring as an organisation in the inbuilt analytics, the insights that provides you as the business user and other departments within the organisation with the access to those insights so that they can be part of the forecasting process and not just receiving a report and challenging you on those numbers. Trusting the plan or trusting the information, and that you can trust the data that's in the planning application. It's using transactions, so you can trust that source. And then the last part again is that automation. It's delivering that through automating repetitive tasks, allowing finance to focus on the more strategic areas that we touched on earlier.
Yeah. So all these are good. Let's look at some value realization and some ROI, because there are many CFOs here. We only believe in numbers and KPIs.
And JP. Yeah, but I think, look, as you're reflecting on that, and you can read that on your own, right? I think don't miss the bit that I always feel like I miss when I present the business, and that is the primary focus of my business is this, and that's to enable agility in finance and in FP&A, right? And that's why, because that elevates your role, to that of a strategic business advisor, right? Which is the CIO. We help you become the Chief Insights Officer, in your business that Maurice talked about earlier.
So it's all about less spreadsheet, more control, more visibility.
Ease of use and finance
And ease of
owned.
use. Yeah. Thank you, Vince, for your insights. And I think for the audience here, he has given some good pointers there. So hopefully you can take note of those. Those are some of the tick boxes that you have looked for as you evaluate your next solution. So thank you, Vince, once again.
Thank you,
for
Lee.
joining us.